What's good, Meaningful Movers? Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's show, we're going to talk about purpose and the strength of willpower. It's all about deciding what your life will be about and taking action towards that. But y'all know how it is and what we do. We need to set that thing, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is determination. This is committing to achieving your goals no matter the challenges that may show up. I think it's fair to say that nothing comes easy. Athleticism, academics, employment, not even sleep. And that's when you have all the physical abilities at your disposal. What if some part of that is taken away from you? The world may look a lot bigger or smaller than it used to. That all depends on you. That's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than himself, Ken, his lovely wife. Why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourselves and what you're going to share with us today?
Thank you, Krystal. Well, my name is Ken Kunken, and sitting next to me is my wife, Anna Kunken. And I think the best place to start would be to take your listeners back to 1970, because at that time, I was a 20-year-old college student at Cornell University. And like most college students, I dreamed of leading a useful, productive, rewarding, and happy life. But on October 31st, 1970, I broke my neck and severed my spinal cord making a tackle on a kickoff in a lightweight football game against Columbia University. And as a result, I'm a quadriplegic, almost totally paralyzed. I have a little bit of movement in my left arm, but nothing in my fingers or wrist. And on my right side of my body, I could just shrug my shoulder a little bit. So I need help doing virtually everything. And I spent the next 9 months and 20 days in various hospitals and rehabilitation centers. One of the things that I wanted to convey to your listeners is that at that time, I was given very little encouragement or very little hope that I could ever lead a useful, productive, rewarding, or happy life. In fact, when I tried to see what type of expectations the medical personnel had for me or somebody in my condition, it appeared that they only thought the best I would ever be able to do would be to someday sell magazine subscriptions over the telephone. And I was determined to do more than that. So 11 days after I was discharged from the hospital, I traveled 250 miles away from my home and family. And with the aid of a personal care attendant that I'd met only once before, I resumed my studies in industrial engineering up at Cornell University, which is in upstate Ithaca, New York. Now, just to tell your listeners a little bit about what Cornell was like back then, you have to keep in mind, this was about 20 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act took effect. So this was before campuses were made basically wheelchair accessible. Cornell did not have one ramp or curb cut on its entire campus, and virtually every one of its buildings had steps in front of it. So on my first day of classes, I had to be either pulled up or bounced down close to 100 steps just to attend my first day. But with a lot of help from my attendant and my fellow classmates, I completed my junior and senior year at Cornell during those next 2 years, and I became the first quadriplegic to ever graduate from Cornell University.
I think that deserves a round of applause. I hope that it was noticed by Cornell, all of the challenges that you had to go through just trying to navigate their campus and how many people really just came out and supported you in that. For them to just hopefully make some changes. I hope that you were just kind of the genesis of that, just to even get the conversation started there.
Well, thanks. If I could comment on that.
Yeah.
The administration really tried to be helpful to me. I know that they really were concerned with how I was doing and really wanted to be helpful. But it was all new to them as it was to me. So they really weren't sure how they could be helpful. And I wasn't sure either. But just to give you an example, one of the obstacles I faced was that my dorm room was located in a building that had 10 steps in front of it. And I asked the administration if they could at least put in a ramp to my dorm. And their initial reaction was, no, they didn't want to do that because in order to put in a ramp there, they would have to remove 2 bushes. And they were concerned students might protest if they removed them. So my first semester back, I had to be pulled up or bounced down those 10 steps every time I went out of the building. But what happened is at the beginning of my second semester, we had a fire drill. Now, of course, when a fire drill, everybody has to evacuate the building. And the next day, the administration asked me how I managed during the drill. And I told them that while I was able to get out of the building by having my attendant bounce me down the 10 steps, I felt bad because I slowed up the other students exiting. And wouldn't you know, within 2 weeks, Cornell installed a ramp there. And by the way, not one student complained about removing the 2 bushes. In fact, many preferred using the ramp to walking up and down the steps.
I would.
Yeah. And I think that's just an example of Cornell just not understanding what the needs were of somebody with a disability and how helpful everybody else would be in making sure not only my needs were accommodated, but how it helped so many other people as well. Not just me, even though I was the only person who needed to use it who was in a wheelchair there.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put a pin right here. Not a pin, but just a milestone marker, as this was a very good success story into your journey. You probably didn't realize it, but I think this is something very meaningful that you did there.
Thank you. I think my wife wants to say something.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the listeners know that the Cornell actually did make sure that you have place to stay accessible, and not accessible, the big room for you to stay with you and your aide. And they did pay for a big part of the education.
Well, Cornell really wanted to be helpful.
But just didn't know how. That's the problem.
There's no question in my mind. They wanted to help me.
Yeah.
But they didn't know the best way of doing it, and neither did I. And it was a lot of trial and error, but also a lot of assumptions on their part as to what they could do that may not interfere with other students. And I think they misjudged how other students would react and feel, and how an accommodation to somebody in a wheelchair could help a lot of people, not just the person in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
One thing right now, when you think about Cornell, they are like out there actually teaching other organizations how to make everything accessible, not physical, but everything else, like attitudinal changes, all that stuff. They have special courses designed to teach others, not only students, but the workers in different companies, to be the best in accommodations of the people with disabilities. So I'm not sure that they learn only on your examples.
No, it wasn't just for me, but maybe I helped get it started. But the Americans with Disabilities Act has made an enormous difference, obviously not just for me, but for so many people in so many ways.
Absolutely. So this was your first triumph after that ridiculous experience you had with rehab, having folks tell you what your future would look like.
Right. And then to tell you what happened after that was,
please,
I felt that what I really wanted to do after I got my degree in engineering was to work with and help individuals, to help them adjust to either disabilities that they may have had, or life-altering diseases, or just problems people were facing. So I decided to change my career goal and decided to pursue a career in counseling. So I stayed at Cornell and earned a Master of Arts degree in counseling and student personnel administration. And then to increase my counseling credentials, I obtained a second graduate degree, this one from Columbia University, where I got a Master of Education degree in psychological counseling and rehabilitation. By the way, when I got the master's degree at Cornell, I'm also the first quadriplegic to ever earn a graduate degree from Cornell as well. But now, after getting my second master's degree, I decided to look for a job in the rehabilitation counseling field. And I was fairly confident at the time that now that I had 3 Ivy League degrees, 2 from Cornell, 1 from Columbia, 2 master's degrees, that I shouldn't have too much difficulty securing employment. To my dismay, no one would hire me. I looked for a job for a year and I sent out more than 200 resumes. I was even turned down enough to volunteer my services. because apparently everybody felt I was just too disabled to work. And finally, I found one organization willing to give me the chance to show what I could do. And that was an organization on Long Island called Abilities Incorporated, which was part of what was then called the Human Resources Center, and is now called the Viscardi Center after its founder, Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr. And they hired me to work as a vocational and rehabilitation counselor for other individuals who had severe disabilities. And I am so grateful for that opportunity. That changed my life.
Well, tell me about your experience there as far as helping some of the others who are also had some disabilities.
Well, when I was counseling the other individuals, I tried to emphasize to make the most of what abilities they did have and to try as best they can to maintain a positive attitude and to keep their expectations high, because I thought that was so important. One of the disappointments that I had when I was going through rehab is that nobody had high expectations for me. And as a result, I met a lot of other patients that had gone through rehab at the same facility who didn't appear to be doing much of anything after they got out of the rehab center. And I think part of that was because they weren't encouraged to do more with their lives, because people just felt if you had a serious disability that there wasn't much you could do. And I think that has an enormous effect on people, because people's performance often rises or falls based upon what others expect of them. So it's so important to keep your expectations high for others, but as well as for yourself. You need to expect the best from yourself and don't be satisfied with anything less. And I think that's so important. If there's a message I want to convey to people, that would be one of them. And another one would be to keep up hope. It's so important to keep up hope with whatever you do. You know, no matter how dark some days seem, you need to keep up hope that it's going to get better at some point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is another milestone moment. I want to call out something that you mentioned, and I don't even think you realized what you had done, or maybe you did. But in the world of coaching or in leadership, when you're offering feedback, everyone says, the way that you go about this is you always give out all of the appreciation first, give out all of the good accolades and acknowledgement first, and then come back and then discuss here are the areas of improvement. That's the first thing that hit me was, well, hey, I focused on all the faculties that they did have. So let's call out all the good and focus there. And then the next step is to really just create an actionable roadmap toward what your North Star was going to be.
Absolutely.
That was perfect. So I think that was just another milestone moment. And also to call out, how it feels to have someone tell you something so negative. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important, because this transcends just disabilities. For folks who are coming from low income, they have teachers and counselors that literally will tell them, don't expect to be all these other things. You're not going to get there. You're not going to be able to afford college. You're not going to, the lifestyle that you have and, your family life or your structure or what have you. You're good to get here. If you get here, that's where it is. And I think this is a great message that transcends disabilities, but so much further.
And I think one of the important ideas that I want to get across too is what a difference being given the opportunity to show what you can do. That's all I was asking for when I was looking for a job. And when I finally did get my first job, it increased my feelings of self-worth and self-esteem. And it actually gave me the self-confidence to say, I think there's even more that I can do. So after working for a couple of years at the Viscardi Center, I decided to leave to go to law school. And I then went to Hofstra University Law School. And upon graduation, I obtained my dream job as an assistant district attorney in Nassau County, Long Island. And that's all thanks to the opportunity the Viscardi Center gave me to show what I could do.
Goodness. So you sitting up here with 2 master degrees, right? A law degree, and you became a lawyer.
I worked for more than 40 years as an assistant district attorney, where I was promoted a number of times until I became one of the deputy bureau chiefs, where I was helping supervise more than 25 other assistant district attorneys.
Mm-hmm. a leader in your own right, not only in the world of disabilities and supporting all of those efforts, but just in the way of leadership, because you gained that promotion all the way through. That's impressive.
Thank you.
Talking about leadership, you did have a conversation with one of the people who decided about hiring you for DA's office. What did he say when you asked him why did they hire you? Well, before.
Now, many years later, after I was working at the district attorney's office, I spoke to the person who was in charge of hiring. At the time I was hired. And I said to him, I thought it was a very gutsy move for you to take this chance on me, because at the time, I didn't know of any quadriplegics who were trial attorneys, and certainly not assistant district attorneys. And he said he was concerned when he interviewed me, but he said I met all of the qualifications, and he could not think of one reason not to hire me, because he knew I was qualified for the job and had confidence in me that I could do it. And I was so fortunate to have him interview me, and then later to have the district attorney at the time, a person by the name of Dennis Dillon, have the self-confidence in his decision to hire me. Because as I said, I didn't know of another quadriplegic assistant district attorney at the time. I started working there in 1982, right after law school. So that was well over 40 years ago, where I think it was more unusual to see a quadriplegic, not just out in the street and out in public, but working as a courtroom trial attorney.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And now, even with all of those accomplishments, this isn't your proudest one yet, is it?
No, definitely not. The best is yet to come. What I'm most proud of is my personal life. I did my best to try and not let my disability keep me from doing anything I felt I would have done had I not had my spinal cord injury. And that included dating. You know, like any young man, I wanted to meet and have a satisfying relationship with the perfect woman. And as you might imagine, dating when you're a quadriplegic and trying to impress a woman when you're almost totally paralyzed has its own unique set of challenges. But I was really fortunate that I met the perfect woman for me. Her name is Anna. She's sitting next to me now. And Anna and I fell in love, and we got married in 2003. We recently celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary. But it gets better. Because when Anna and I decided to get married, Anna told me that she wanted to have my baby. Not just a baby, my baby. She said she wanted to see a little Kunken running around our home. Now, this actually really seemed impossible at the time, because back then I had been paralyzed for more than 30 years, and I was already in my 50s. But we researched various options, including in vitro fertilization, and found that it still may be possible for someone in my condition to father a child. So we decided to pursue it, and through the miracle of science, Anna became pregnant. And I would like to say that on January 24th, 2005, I was present in the delivery room. I was present in the delivery room when my wife gave birth to triplets. We have triplet boys who are now 19 years old and have just started their sophomore year in college.
I tell you, you're a charmer.
Thank you. Well, I have a great partner in my wife here and 3 wonderful, wonderful sons that I couldn't be more proud of.
A dynamic duo. I appreciate that. That's great to have a partner that is there for you in not only physical, but mental and emotional.
Makes all the difference.
Yeah. We always feel like we have it together. And it's in these moments where we all will go through ways of doubt, and I call them funks, but just the down days where we get down on ourselves. And it's great to have that balance, that equilibrium where, well, that's okay, because I got you. You know, I can lift you up today,
right, and
vice versa. So I think this is a beautiful story. And wow, triplets. I don't even know what to tell you. How'd that go?
Right. Well, I tell you, people can find out exactly how things have been going and how my life turned out, because my wife has helped me write a book about my life. And the book is called I Dream of Things That Never Were, the Ken Kunken story. It's available on Amazon, or to find out other ways of ordering the book, they can go to my website, which is www.kenkunken.com, and find out more about my life and the book. I encourage anybody who's interested to see how I was able to do what I did with a lot of help from a lot of people to read my book.
Now, in this book, I understand you were inspired by a military quote. Is that so?
Well, there's a quote in the military that I've always liked, which is, "The difficult, we do it once. The impossible takes a little longer." And we were determined to make the impossible happen and do it sooner rather than later. And I might add that where I got the title for my book was when I was first in the rehab center, I had the opportunity to testify before a United States Senate Health Subcommittee chaired by Senator Edward Kennedy. And 8 days after my testimony, Senator Kennedy sent me a glass paperweight in the mail that had an inscription on it that was another quotation that I've always liked a lot. And that quotation, the senator said his late brother Robert Kennedy liked very much. And that quotation was, "Some men see things as they are and say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not." That's where I got the title of my book, I Dream of Things That Never Were.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, your story has been incredibly inspiring today. You didn't need me.
Well, I just want to add, when you say that, I've always needed help from a lot of people.
Aw.
And people are great and supplying it. So thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And I need to thank so many others all along the way who have helped me do all the things that I've been able to do.
A strong support system makes a world of difference, doesn't it?
It sure does.
If I say something, it's not just one way thing. You mentioned support, physical support and mental support too, in different ways, what Ken did or we did together. The triplets pregnancy wasn't easy. Even going into it wasn't easy, right? But I have to admit that with the partner like Ken, even though that he cannot really do much physical, the support he gave me, mental support and everything else, it kept me going through getting into this and going through it and giving birth, and then just making sure that those 3 boys became those great young men as they are now. So the mental support, it's as crucial as anything else when you think about the pregnancy and being a mother. I don't think that I would be able to do that if not Ken's support. I'm not sure how the other partners are doing, but I had the best partner ever.
Oh.
Even though that he was not able to change the diaper, which I didn't do, by the way.
Awesome. Well, I truly appreciate you all joining me today. Let me ask, do you guys have any golden nuggets that you want to add some ketchup just to recap?
Well, a few things that I've touched upon already. One is to keep your expectations high, not only for yourself, but for others as well, because that will help everybody achieve more than most people thought was ever possible. 2, to keep up hope, right? It is so important to keep up hope, not to lose hope. Tomorrow is another day, and when you have a difficult day, hopefully tomorrow will be better. And 3, it is so important to help others when you can. Do your best to help others so that years from now, you could see you did everything you possibly could to help others achieve their goals. It makes a huge difference. And I might add that when I got my job at the Viscardi Center, it made me feel so much better about myself, because for years, I had been the recipient of so many people's help. And now I finally had the opportunity to give back. And that's a tremendous feeling, to be able to help others. And that did wonders for me as well.
A message, isn't it? Giving back to others is definitely giving back to yourself. I appreciate you. That's the episode today. Have you ever been at the top of your game, or the opposite, and feeling so low that you didn't think it could get any worse? Then it does. The wind is knocked out of you, and you don't know how you will ever get that new breeze to lift your wings up and back into the sky. We tend to be incredibly driven towards our goal that when something disrupts that, we turn off the engine. Just because your original path may not be the same doesn't mean the destination has changed. It may not be what it was, but it could be something different and truly memorable. I truly hope that Ken's story has touched you in a way that reignites the fury of your passion or inspires you to create a slightly altered roadmap to your North Star. I'm not just talking doubling down, we're tripling the ripple effect. Share your stories of sheer willpower. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Ken, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you.
Thank you. My name is Ken Kunken, Kunken. They can go to my website at www.kenkunken.com, and hopefully they'll have the opportunity to read about my life in my book, I Dream of Things That Never Were, The Ken Kunken Story, which is published by 12 Tables Press.
Much appreciated. I'll make sure to include all of Ken's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82 and on Pinterest at Arthur KB Clark. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy-dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.